My Rotten, Red-Headed Older Brother by Patricia Polacco. Here you can see some of the family photos we talked about of Patricia and her brother growing up on the farm and through the years. My Rotten, Red-Headed Older Brother. Let me just take a picture. This is the inside cover. It's dedicated to her brother Rich, with love, Patricia Polacco. It's like they had a lot of fun on the farm with their grandmother. My brother and our mother and I all lived with my grandparents on their farm in Union City, Michigan. Now my babushka, my grandmother, knew lots of things. She knew just how to tell a good story. She knew how to make ordinary things magical. And she knew how to make the best chocolate cake in Michigan. After she told my brother and me a grand tale from her homeland, we'd always ask, "Bubby, is that true?" She'd answer, "Of course it's true, but it may not have happened." Then she'd laugh. If you look, here they are, gathered around. They're helping her mix something. Maybe they're making a cake. Now I knew that she loved me all right, but I couldn't quite understand how she could even like my older brother, Richard. He had orange hair. It was like wire. He was covered in freckles and looked like a weasel with glasses. The only thing that my bubby didn't seem to know was how perfectly awful my brother really was. Mind you, he was always nice whenever she was around us, but as soon as she'd leave, he would do something terrible to me and laugh. There were so many things that I couldn't stand about him. The worst was he was always telling me he could do just about everything better than I. "Bet I can pick more blackberries than you can," he jeered at me one day. "No, you can't." "Can so." "Cannot." "Can," he whispered. "Not," I said louder. "Can." He whispered so loud that I could hardly hear him. "Not!" I screamed back. We both picked berries for most of the afternoon. Well, he upped and did it. He not only picked more berries than I, he set a record that wasn't even challenged for the next 10 years. "You make me sick, Richard Barber," I yelled at him, and he smiled that smile that only a rotten, red-headed older brother could smile. I guess I would have to face it. He could run the fastest, climb the highest, throw the farthest, and sit the longest, get the dirtiest, burp the loudest, and spit the farthest. He had no equal, certainly not me. "And I'm 4 years older than you, always have been, and always will be," he sneered. There had to be something I could do that he couldn't. Then an inspired thought comforted me like a fresh breeze on a hot summer day. "Oh, Richie," I cooed as I stood next to the rhubarb bushes. "Do you like rhubarb?" "No," he said. "It's the sourest stuff on this planet." Now I knew at long last that I had him. Bet I can eat more this raw rhubarb than you can without getting the puckers, I challenged. I don't think so. I do. I don't, he said, narrowing his eyes. I do, I insisted. Don't, he hissed, looking smug. Do, I said furiously as I grabbed the first stalk and started chewing it almost down to the leaf. What a rivalry. When I couldn't get one more sour bite into my mouth, he was still eating with relish. I thought you said you don't like rhubarb, I said through pursed lips. I don't like it. I love it, he announced as he popped the last stalk into his mouth. I was so mad. I couldn't even feel how my belly was starting to ache. I can't stand you, Richard Barber. I double dog can't stand you, I screamed as I went into the house to be consoled by my grandmother. Yeah, and I'm 4 years older than you, too, you little twerp. Always have been, and always will be, he called after me. Then he laughed that rotten, red-headed, older brother laugh. That night at dinner, I could hardly eat. Have you been eating angry apples again, child? Bubby asked as she sliced me a huge wedge of rhubarb pie. I baked your favorite. Richard gave me one of his extra rotten, weasel-eyed, greeny-toothed grins. Let me see that. At bedtime, my Bubby came and sat on the edge of my bed like she did every night. Look, a falling star, she said. We watched it streak across the sky. Then she spit twice between her fingers and gave her chest a loud slap. Why did you do that, Bubby? I asked. I was making a wish. Didn't you know that wishes on falling stars come true? At last I knew how I was going to get back at my brother. For the longest time I watched the dark sky until I saw a star shoot across the night. Then I spit between my 2 fingers and slapped my chest. It was done. My wish to do something, anything, better than my brother. I'd show him. The next morning, all I could think about was my wish. I was thinking about it so hard, I almost didn't notice the wagons and trucks pulling into the field down the road near Four Corners. A traveling carnival, my brother shouted as he ran toward me. They're setting up right here in our field. Bet I can eat more hot dogs than you can, he teased. He was already starting it, but this time I was going to do something so incredible that even he would have to sit up and take notice. I had a star wish. I'd show my rotten red-headed older brother all right. That night I ran straight for the merry-go-round. We must have taken 50 turns on that carousel. Then my brother got off. I stayed on. I went around and around and around. I knew I could do this longer than you, I shouted to my brother, feeling proud, but just a bit dizzy. Grisha, I heard my Bubby call out. Get off from that thing. It's time to go home. The last thing I remember was stepping off from the platform. The next thing I knew, I woke up with Bubby sitting on the edge of my bed. Mom and Grandpa were there too. You gave us all a fright, Mama said. How do you feel? What happened? I asked.